Imagine sitting down to a warm, nourishing meal that not only tastes delicious, but also quietly supports your body in ways you might never have guessed. Many older adults dismiss the idea of trying a so-called new food, especially one that seems exotic or is labeled a health fad. Yet there is a humble South American staple called quinoa, grown for centuries in the Andes, that holds surprising potential for seniors who want to maintain vitality, strength, and independence. Perhaps you've walked by it in the grocery store, thinking it was only meant for younger folks chasing the latest superfood trend. Or maybe you've heard the word, but dismissed it as just another pricey import. Today, I want to share why quinoa can be a game changer for those of us in our golden years, offering benefits that extend far beyond the dinner table. Many seniors find themselves facing a common challenge. Despite trying to eat right, they still struggle with low energy, frequent digestive troubles, or concerns about muscle weakness. There's a real sense of frustration in wanting to stay active, be it taking long walks, tending to the garden, or even keeping up with grandchildren, but feeling held back by stiff joints or bouts of fatigue. Addressing these issues matters because mobility and energy levels tie directly to our ability to remain independent, to feel confident in our day-to-day activities, and to enjoy the experiences we've worked so hard to create in retirement. It's not just about living longer, it's about living better, with more comfort and fewer restrictions on our choices. The ancient Incas once called quinoa the mother grain, though it's actually not a grain at all, and they believed it bestowed strength on their warriors. This idea may sound like folklore, yet modern nutritionists have discovered that quinoa is incredibly rich in quality protein, fiber, and a range of vitamins and minerals crucial for those of us past 65. Unlike some of the more complicated diet strategies out there, quinoa's benefits are surprisingly accessible, even for those who face common barriers like lower appetites or difficulty chewing certain foods. By the end of our time together, you'll discover 3 surprising ways quinoa can potentially boost your energy, support your heart, and help keep your muscles strong. We'll talk about why so many misconceptions exist around quinoa, especially among people who grew up on bread, potatoes, and other staples that seem more affordable or practical. We'll also explore how easy it can be to add quinoa to your everyday meals, even if you prefer traditional dishes. Along the way, I'll share stories of seniors who, despite initial skepticism, found that this simple South American secret opened doors they didn't realize were closed. By the conclusion, you'll see how incorporating quinoa might make a noticeable difference in how you feel day to day, and you'll have practical strategies to get started without giving up the foods and flavors you love. I'm not here to replace the guidance of healthcare professionals, but rather to share insights drawn from both time-tested cultural traditions and modern observations about nutrition. Ultimately, you are the best judge of what resonates with your body and your life. Still, I invite you to watch closely because sometimes the smallest changes, like a scoop of quinoa at dinner, can create ripple effects you'd never expect. And who knows, you may be surprised to find a new sense of vitality ready to greet you at each meal. If you're ready to explore an unlikely hero for your health, let's begin this journey into the world of quinoa. Afterward, I'd love to hear which part of this story resonates most with you and how you envision using this ancient superfood in your own kitchen. Let's first address one of the most common misgivings, the belief that quinoa is an upscale trend or that it's challenging to prepare. You might be surprised at just how simple and rewarding it can be. It's easy to assume that anything labeled a superfood is just marketing spin, or that it will be complicated to cook. Many seniors growing up in an era before quinoa gained popularity assume it must require unusual cooking steps. Betty, who's 76, felt the same way. She had tried brown rice once in the past and found it too chewy. She was convinced quinoa would be equally off-putting. Yet after a little guidance, Betty discovered that quinoa cooks in about 15 minutes, faster than many other grains, and has a light, pleasantly nutty flavor. What might surprise you is that quinoa is often easier on the digestive system than heavier grains like wheat. It's gluten-free, which can be a blessing for seniors with sensitive stomachs or those who have found over the years that bread and pasta cause discomfort. The key is a simple rinse before cooking to remove a natural coating called saponin, which can taste slightly bitter. Once rinsed, you cook it like rice. 2 parts water to 1 part quinoa, Bring it to a boil, then simmer for about 15 minutes. The result is fluffy, slightly crunchy, and very gentle on digestion. A practical tip: buy pre-rinsed quinoa if you don't want to fuss with extra steps. It's becoming so popular that most brands now offer it. If standing by the sink to rinse it is uncomfortable, especially if you have back or joint pain, look for the pre-rinsed label on the packaging. You can also consider using a fine mesh strainer to avoid spills, which makes the job easier if your hands aren't as steady as they used to be. Physically, adding quinoa to your meals means less strain from digesting heavy starches, which can sometimes lead to bloating, sluggishness, or even heartburn in older adults. Emotionally, it's a little confidence boost to know you can still try something new, no matter your age. Being open to a fresh ingredient can remind you of your resilience. That spark of curiosity isn't gone just because you're a bit older. Instead of feeling limited, you'll feel like there's a world of culinary exploration waiting right in your own kitchen. Before moving on, consider for a moment: is there a favorite dish you love, maybe a comforting soup or a casserole, that could handle a swap of pasta or rice for quinoa? By finding a simple, familiar recipe to transform, you can test the waters without any big commitment. I encourage you to let that idea sit for a while and maybe jot down one dish you'd like to experiment with. It's a small step, but often small steps lead to big results. Now that you know it's neither difficult nor expensive, you might wonder, but is it really any better for me than my usual go-to staples? This brings us to the next revelation about quinoa: its extraordinary protein profile. One of the biggest myths out there is that only foods like meat or eggs offer complete protein. It's understandable why so many seniors hold this belief. Most of us grew up hearing that you had to have meat for every meal to stay strong. James, now 72, followed the standard meat and potatoes routine his entire life. When his doctor suggested cutting back on red meat to manage his cholesterol, James worried he'd become weak or lose muscle mass. To his surprise, the doctor recommended trying quinoa as part of a balanced approach to nutrition. Quinoa stands out among plant-based foods because it contains all 9 essential amino acids. These are the building blocks of protein that our bodies can't produce on their own. This is particularly important for seniors as muscle loss becomes more of a concern with age. The body's ability to maintain and build lean muscle can decline, making protein quality a bigger deal than ever. While you should always consult with a healthcare provider about specific dietary needs, quinoa's complete protein profile is a reason many nutrition experts label it a superfood. Evidence suggests that regularly incorporating high-quality protein can support muscle strength, potentially reduce the risk of falls, and help with overall physical stability. For James, swapping out some portions of steak or processed meats for a quinoa-based dish, like a warm quinoa salad with roasted vegetables and a sprinkle of cheese, made a real difference. Within a few months, he noticed that his post-meal fatigue improved, and he felt a bit lighter on his feet. He wasn't giving up meat entirely, just replacing a few portions here and there. Meanwhile, his doctor reported that his cholesterol levels were moving in the right direction, offering a bit of reassurance. You don't need to abandon your favorite sources of protein if you still enjoy them. Instead, think of quinoa as an excellent companion. You might replace your usual side dish with quinoa, or even try a quinoa breakfast bowl. Cooked quinoa, warmed with milk or a milk substitute, topped with fruits and nuts. Emotionally, there's a sense of empowerment in knowing you don't have to rely solely on traditional staples to stay strong. By exploring simple dietary shifts, you can help feed your muscles in a way that aligns with both modern recommendations and the time-tested traditions of Andean cultures. If you're feeling intrigued but hesitant, consider sharing this new approach with a friend or family member. Sometimes inviting someone else along, like asking a grandchild for recipe ideas, can make it more fun and less intimidating. That sense of community can make trying something novel feel more like an adventure than a chore. Let's pause for a moment. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this so far. Does the idea of finding complete protein in a simple plant source surprise you? Let that question settle as we move on to another aspect of quinoa that many seniors overlook: how it can help stabilize energy levels throughout the day. A common misconception among older adults is that feeling drained after midday is just normal aging. While energy levels do shift as we get older, Peggy, who recently turned 80, learned that some of her afternoon fatigue was linked to what she ate at lunch. She typically had a sandwich on white bread or a bowl of noodles followed by a quick nap. My body just felt heavy, she recalled. Her daughter, a dietitian, encouraged her to switch from refined carbs to a half cup of cooked quinoa paired with grilled chicken and vegetables. The difference, Peggy felt, was remarkable. Instead of the roller coaster of blood sugar spikes and crashes, quinoa's blend of complex carbohydrates and fiber helped her maintain steady energy. This is crucial because sudden drops in blood sugar can leave you feeling shaky, irritable, or extremely tired. Symptoms that many seniors chalk up to aging without realizing they can be mitigated by dietary changes. When Peggy swapped processed carbs for quinoa, she noticed she could power through the afternoon without that foggy feeling. She still took a short rest when she felt like it, but it became a leisurely break rather than a necessity. Here's the evidence-based insight. Quinoa has a relatively low glycemic index compared to many white starches, meaning it doesn't cause a rapid spike in blood sugar. It also provides a balance of macronutrients that can support sustained energy release. For seniors concerned about managing diabetes or prediabetes, choosing foods with a lower glycemic index can be an important part of stabilizing blood sugar, but always consult with your healthcare provider for personal medical advice. The point is that you have more control than you might think over how you feel throughout the day, and certain foods are more supportive than others. On the practical side, consider blending quinoa into a hearty vegetable soup or enjoying it in place of potatoes as a side dish. If dexterity is a challenge, look for frozen, pre-cooked quinoa at some grocery stores. Simply heat it in the microwave and you're good to go. Emotionally, it's empowering to discover you can reclaim energy levels you thought were gone for good. It reminds us that aging doesn't have to be synonymous with constant tiredness. Sometimes, just a thoughtful swap at mealtime can have a ripple effect, boosting not only physical well-being, but also your outlook on what's possible in daily life. Now that we've seen how quinoa can help keep muscles strong and energy stable, let's explore a lesser-known benefit, its potential to be heart-friendly. Many seniors believe that heart health only revolves around cutting down on certain foods like butter, red meat, or salt. And while reducing saturated fats and excess sodium can be beneficial, Alfredo, age 77, discovered that adding specific nutrient-rich foods can also be a powerful part of supporting heart function. He had a minor cardiac event 2 years ago, which led him to re-examine his diet. When his doctor recommended nutrient-dense options, quinoa came up as a star ingredient. High in magnesium and potassium, minerals known to help maintain healthy blood pressure, quinoa is a versatile option that may complement a heart-friendly eating plan. Alfredo replaced his usual bowl of sugary breakfast cereal with quinoa flakes or even leftover quinoa from dinner. He'd top it with almond milk and fruit, enjoying a dish that offered both sweetness and nutrition without the blood sugar roller coaster. Over time, his blood pressure readings started to improve, and his physician was pleased with the consistent trend. Though, of course, medications and lifestyle changes also played a role. You'll want to keep in mind that diet is just one piece of heart health. Regular movement, stress management, and routine checkups all matter too. But the beauty of quinoa is that it's easy to weave into existing habits. You don't have to overhaul your entire approach. Instead, think of quinoa as an ally that can help fill in nutritional gaps. Alfredo felt emotionally supported by taking small steps that worked alongside his medication and doctor's recommendations. Every time he made quinoa in the morning, it was a gentle reminder that he was actively participating in his own well-being. There's pride in that, knowing that your choices have tangible value, even if they seem small in the moment. This sense of pride and empowerment is worth highlighting. Especially in later life, it's easy to feel like your health is out of your hands, controlled only by what the doctor says. Discovering a new beneficial food can flip that narrative. You're reminded that your daily habits do matter and that positive changes can happen at any age. The next time you think about grabbing your usual quick breakfast, consider whether there's room to give quinoa a try. It could be as simple as mixing quinoa flakes with warm milk, cinnamon, and a few berries, or cooking a batch of regular quinoa the night before and reheating it in the morning with nuts and fruit. By experimenting, you might stumble upon a new routine that quietly supports your heart health. We've covered how quinoa can be simpler to prepare than you might expect, how it provides complete protein, how it stabilizes energy, and how it may support cardiovascular well-being. Let's take a moment to pause and reflect. Which of these points feels most relevant to you or someone you care about? Maybe you're drawn to the idea of more stable energy, or perhaps the heart health connection resonates with you. Keep those thoughts in mind as we move on to another surprising benefit of this ancient food: its impressive range of vitamins and minerals. A frequent assumption is that all whole grains are essentially the same. Yet a deeper look reveals that quinoa is especially rich in nutrients beyond protein, such as B vitamins, iron, and zinc, that many seniors struggle to get enough of. Let's consider 68-year-old Dolores. She was consistently dealing with mild anemia, which left her feeling fatigued and occasionally dizzy. Her doctor advised her to focus on dietary sources of iron alongside her supplements. Dolores started adding quinoa to her weekly meal rotation, making a simple quinoa fried rice by mixing cooked quinoa with scrambled eggs, peas, carrots, and a dash of soy sauce. While quinoa alone wasn't a magic bullet for anemia, Dolores's blood work did show incremental improvements over time. Her fatigue lessened, and she felt more confident standing up without worrying about losing her balance. She also appreciated that quinoa felt lighter on her stomach than other forms of iron-rich foods, like heavy red meats, which sometimes upset her digestion. Plus, those B vitamins, such as folate, are crucial for overall cellular health and can be especially important for older adults looking to maintain cognitive function. When discussing minerals like iron or vitamins like B12, it's always important to keep in mind that your personal needs may vary. Some people might require supplements, while others can get what they need through a balanced diet. What's compelling about quinoa is that it can complement whatever plan you and your healthcare provider decide on. It brings a broad spectrum of nutrients to the table in a form that's easy to consume, and that's both physically and emotionally reassuring. You're not just eating empty calories. You're fueling your body with the building blocks it needs to maintain vitality. Even if your appetite isn't what it used to be, a small serving of quinoa can offer a concentrated dose of essential nutrients. If you're not sure how to begin, consider pairing quinoa with colorful vegetables, like bell peppers, leafy greens, or tomatoes, that also provide vitamins and minerals. A sprinkle of cheese or a drizzling of olive oil can enhance the flavor without complicating the recipe. Experiment with different herbs like basil or cilantro to keep your palate interested. A sense of variety can keep meals feeling fresh, which in turn makes it easier to stick to healthier habits. We've just explored 5 important ways quinoa can benefit seniors, from being gentle on digestion to delivering essential nutrients. You might be asking, this all sounds great, but how do I make room for it in my already established routines? That's a fair question. Let's wrap up our exploration with a final insight: the adaptability of quinoa in both flavor and usage. A widespread misconception about healthy foods, especially among seniors, is that they come with a sacrifice of flavor or enjoyment. After all, many of us grew up with the idea that if something was good for you, it probably didn't taste very good. Winston, age 74, lived by this motto: if it's healthy, it must be bland. He was pleasantly shocked when he attended a potluck at his community center and tried a quinoa tabbouleh, bursting with fresh parsley, lemon juice, and a hint of garlic. The taste was vibrant, and he found himself going back for seconds. He later requested the recipe, realizing that quinoa can easily absorb the flavors of herbs, spices, and sauces. The beauty of quinoa lies in its adaptability. It can play the starring role in a dish, like a quinoa salad with roasted veggies and feta cheese. Or it can be a subtle sidekick, blending seamlessly into casseroles, soups, or even baked goods. If you're worried about mobility issues or arthritis making stovetop cooking a hassle, there are even recipes for slow cooker quinoa or instant pot quinoa that require minimal stirring. Many seniors find that once they figure out their preferred cooking method, quinoa becomes as familiar and dependable as rice once was. From an emotional standpoint, discovering new flavors can spark joy and curiosity, reminding us that there's always more to learn and experience in life. Stepping into the kitchen with a sense of playfulness can revitalize your daily routines. Some seniors even turn it into a social event, preparing a quinoa dish together with friends, sharing tips, and swapping recipes. The sense of community and shared discovery can be uplifting, particularly if you felt isolated or stuck in your ways. At this point, you've encountered a number of perspectives on quinoa's benefits. It's easy on digestion, provides high-quality protein, stabilizes energy, supports heart health, offers key nutrients, and is remarkably versatile. Perhaps you relate to Betty, James, Peggy, Alfredo, Dolores, or Winston in one way or another. Each found that introducing quinoa wasn't complicated. It was a small change with the potential for meaningful results. Now it's time to envision how these findings might transform your own life in practical ways. The thought of trying something new, especially around food, can be both exciting and intimidating. But remember, you get to decide how fast or slow you incorporate these changes. Maybe you start by replacing white rice in one meal a week. Or perhaps you experiment with a breakfast quinoa bowl instead of your usual cereal. Over time, those incremental steps can add up, helping you feel more energetic, physically stronger, and more empowered about your health. Life doesn't stand still, especially when it comes to health. With each birthday, our bodies present new quirks, challenges, and triumphs. The key is to approach these shifts with openness, curiosity, and respect for the wisdom we've gained through the decades. By considering this ancient South American staple, you might discover a fresh sense of possibility in your day-to-day life. Imagine feeling a steadier kind of energy, noticing a bit more spring in your step, or simply enjoying the fact that you're doing something proactive and nourishing for yourself. If you find yourself intrigued, I encourage you to take at least one specific action step within the next week. Perhaps look up a simple quinoa recipe that calls to you or add quinoa to your grocery list. If you're concerned about budget, watch for sales or buy it in bulk. It often ends up quite affordable. If you live in a retirement community, consider suggesting a quinoa dish to the dining hall manager, or share your newfound knowledge with neighbors. And if you use social media, you could even post a photo of your first quinoa dish, inviting friends and family to cheer you on. Your next action might be small, like starting a conversation with a friend about new food discoveries or bookmarking a recipe online. Or it might be bigger, like planning an entire week's worth of meals that incorporate quinoa in different ways. Whatever you choose, remember that your health journey is uniquely yours, and every positive choice you make is a testament to your resilience and adaptability. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of quinoa. It's a food with deep cultural roots, surprising nutritional punch, and a place in the modern senior's kitchen. Let this be a reminder that your story continues to unfold, and each chapter can bring a fresh perspective on what nourishes your body and spirit. Age doesn't have to mean retreating from new experiences. It can be a time of blooming into richer, deeper forms of wisdom, and yes, even more satisfying meals. Now go forth and embrace the adventure that a simple bowl of quinoa may hold. You've learned how it can support muscle health, steady your energy, and contribute to overall wellness in ways that might surprise you. The next move is yours to make. Choose what feels right, test it out, and adapt as you go. You have more agency over your well-being than you might imagine, and this is just one of the many tools at your disposal. Here's to a healthier, happier you, fueled by an ancient secret that's ready to become part of your everyday life.